Roots and wings, the balance every life needs. The German writer and philosopher Johann Wolfgang von Goethe once said that the two lasting bequests we can give our children are roots and wings. Roots to ground them, wings to fly. As metaphors, they are timeless. And as tools for navigating modern life, whether in leadership, parenting, or society, they have never felt more relevant. We live in an age enamored with wings. Velocity is celebrated, novelty is monetized. We chase what's next so quickly that we often forget where we are or where we came from. Many long for something solid, something true, a return to meaning, to community, and to home. Wings without roots can be reckless, and roots without wings can be suffocating. True flourishing requires both. Part 1. Roots, the foundations of belonging. As the French philosopher Simone Weil once wrote, quote, "To be rooted is perhaps the most important and least recognized need of the human soul." End of quote. Roots gives us narrative continuity. They help answer the essential questions. Who am I? What do I stand for? Where do I belong? When I speak of roots, I don't mean preservation for its own sake or the comfort of doing things simply because they've always been done. Not everything old deserves to be preserved. The roots we need most are shared values. They give us stability and help us find our bearings when the world feels uncertain. They are not fossilized habits, but time-tested principles. Like Darwinian traits, these values endured because they allowed societies to flourish. Free speech, the rule of law, property rights, education, and mutual trust are not constraints. They are the scaffolding of freedom. True roots do not hold us down. They make liftoff possible. Confusing habit with heritage is dangerous. Habits tell us how things have been done, while roots remind us why we do them at all. When we enshrine habit over principle, we do not create order, we build prisons. And wings do not grow in cages. When I think of my own roots, I see layers. I see my family, a mix of entrepreneurial fire and moral concern, shaped by Jewish tradition and a Swedish upbringing. Together, they gave me a foundation of moral structure and social trust. And the rhythm of the Jewish year in particular left a deep mark on me. Each season carried its own mile marker of atonement, gratitude, remembrance, and renewal. Over time, that cadence of reflection became a kind of moral metronome. It gave life both structure and a sense of returning and beginning again. Our roots, however, are more than our immediate family or faith. They are nourished by the stories of all those who came before us. Who were they? What did they believe in? How did they find their way? Family stories, rituals, and even national customs form an invisible structure, a quiet framework for our existence. Roots hold us when the winds of change blow hardest. They are the quiet values that remain after the noise has passed. As a change maker, I've often found myself ahead of the curve, drawn to new ideas and to the frontier of what could be. There is a saying in cycling that when the peloton can still see the rider breaking away, they almost always catch him. Lose sight of them, and they rarely do. I lived that dynamic many times. If you move too far ahead, people may not even realize you're part of the same race. Or as the futurist John Nesbitt so often reminded us, you shouldn't get so far ahead of the parade that people don't know you're in it." End of quote. That same restlessness, the urge to improve and reimagine, is grounded in something steady underneath it. My roots gave me the liberty to build wings without fear. Real innovation rarely comes from destroying the past. It comes from honoring what is still true and daring to rethink what no longer serves. Progress is not always about flight. Sometimes it is about building bridges strong enough for others to cross. Roots give us the courage to take risks and the safety to fail. They remind us that failing and falling is not the opposite of flight. It's part of it. Progress also requires patience and proximity. If your wings take you too far from the ground, you lose connection to the very roots that make your ideas meaningful. Ironically, as we grow older, our roots begin to matter more. When we are young, we think mostly about wings, the future, what we will build, and who we will become. Over time, our past grows larger, and we start to see how much of us is already written. There is even a kind of math to it. When you're 1 day old, a day is half your life. When you're 10, a year is 10%. At 60, a year is barely a fraction. No wonder time feels faster, because proportionally it is. Perhaps that is why reflection deepens with age. As our wings mature, our roots come into clearer view. The breadth of our wingspan is determined by the strength of our roots. The freedom to explore, create, and innovate is not born from detachment, but from security. We can only fly high when we know where we come from and when we have a place to take off and land again. Part 2. Wings. The courage to become. Without wings, we cannot become who we are meant to be. We cannot explore new frontiers or help build new lands. I have always felt the pull of flight. In my corporate life, I try to lead with purpose bigger than product, to innovate not for its own sake, but in service of something larger. But wings are risky. They ask us to leap before certainty. They demand vision, faith, and at times courage to leave the familiar behind. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche called it the will to power, the instinct to transcend what is and become something greater. The Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl reminded us that meaning, not comfort, is the key to endurance. The entrepreneurs I most admire share this mindset. They build to last, not to exit. They fly with intention. Their wings are not escape hatches, but extensions of deep-lived values. Wings, when guided by roots, create progress, innovation, discovery, and transformation. Roots act as a compass, keeping us oriented while we explore new horizons. We cannot chart the future wisely without knowing where we began. True wings do not reject what is. They work within it. I've come to see myself less as a risk taker and more as a transition builder, comfortable with uncertainty and able to hold two truths at once. I love the world as it is, yet I can see clearly what it might become. The art lies in bridging that space, creating what is next without destroying what still matters. Real growth rarely happens in a single leap. It happens through small, repeated steps, moments of trial and recovery. We fall, recalibrate, and try again. That is how wings begin to soar. I often think of it like watching a child learn to walk. No parent would see their child stumble and say, "You'll never make it." We celebrate the effort, not just the success. The same spirit should guide us as adults. The courage to try, fail, and try again is how we eventually learn to fly. Part 3. The dance, the harmony of cycles. In Taoism, yin and yang represent opposing forces such as dark and light, stillness and motion, past and future. Each depends on the other and finds meaning only in relation to its opposite. Neither is complete on its own. The same is true for roots and wings. Yet roots and wings are not opposites. They are stages in the same cycle. The wings of one season often become the roots of the next. The ventures we build, the families we raise, and the values we live by all become the soil that others stand on. During my years at McDonald's, our best innovations came not from rejecting the past, but from returning to our original promise, to serve people. In that case, our healthy roots helped build our wings. As business strategist Rishad Tobaccowala reminds us, too many roots can wither us, but too many wings can blow us away. And balance is what allows both growth and endurance. This tension is not only personal, it is organizational, societal, and civilizational. We must also be mindful of which roots we choose to nurture. In organizations, as in life, success can harden into ideals, ideals into systems, and systems into bureaucracy. The very roots that once gave strength can begin to hold us back. Renewal begins by returning to purpose and remembering why we began it all. Years ago, I helped lead a learning company that developed software capable of identifying within minutes exactly which concepts a student had missed, whether in math or reading, and closing those gaps in matters of hours. The results were extraordinary, but the idea was too far ahead of its time. Tradition, the way education had always been structured, became the barrier to progress and to helping children learn, which was, ironically, the original intent. Artificial intelligence may be today's ultimate test of roots and wings. Technology is pure wings, expansive, fast, and unstoppable. But without roots in human values, it can easily lose its way. I once read a line from Holocaust survivors speaking to teachers that has stayed with me ever since. He said, quote, "Gas chambers were built by learned engineers, children poisoned by educated physicians. So I am suspicious of education. My request is, help your students be human." End of quote. The warning is clear. Intelligence without ethics becomes monstrous. Roots at their best are the guardrails that keeps us human. They tether progress to purpose and remind us that innovation is only good if it serves life. Our tools should deepen our capacity for empathy, not erode it. In an age of limitless wings, we need strong, healthy roots more than ever. Culturally, we are also struggling with a loss of roots. We have forgotten many of the shared values that once held us together: civility, humility, kindness toward one another. Social media has given us wings without roots, leaving us fast, impulsive, and often untethered from empathy. In the process, many young people have become uncertain of and come to believe that to build the future, they must reject the past. But a future built on contempt for its foundations cannot hold. The task before us is not to return to the past, but to reroot ourselves in the enduring values that make flight possible again. The wholeness of roots and wings. If I were forced to choose between giving my children roots or wings, I would give them roots. Wings without roots are dangerous, but roots, once deeply planted, can grow wings of their own. But the truth is, we need both. Meaning lives in the movement between the two, in the balance of stability and becoming. I've always loved the Dalai Lama's words: give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay. Maybe that is the work of every generation, to strengthen the soil beneath us while giving those after us the space to soar. I often think of a tree. What we see are the branches and the fruit, but what keeps it alive is the part we do not see, the roots beneath the surface. In modern life, we chase the fruit and forget to tend to the roots, but without them, nothing can grow. The question we must ask parents, leaders, and citizens is not whether to favor roots or wings. It is how to build lives, families, and institutions that honor the necessity of both, because only then do we rise and remain whole. What about you? Which roots keep you grounded? And which wings are ready to carry you forward? I'd love to hear your reflections in the comments. Thank you for watching, listening, or reading. Bye.